Next year is just around the corner, which means a host of new opportunities for small business owners. Without a doubt, it's going to be an uncertain time. After all, the supply chain is still a mess. There's a new variant of COVID, and inflation has yet to ease. Planning against this backdrop can be extremely difficult, but it's not impossible. I'm Donna Fuscaldo. I'm a senior finance writer with business.com. Today, we're chatting with Ben Richmond. He's from Xero, the online accounting platform, and he's here to discuss how small business owners can plan for 2022 amid such uncertainty. Hi, Ben. Thanks so much for taking out the time again. I really appreciate it.
No problem. It's great to be back, Donna. How are you?
Great. So we're headed into 2022. By all accounts, it's going to be an uncertain one. We have new cases of COVID, supply chain still a mess, inflation's still there. How in the world do small business owners plan against all this uncertainty?
Yeah, it's super tough, right? And I think the first thing is sort of give up hope for a return to normal, to a normal world. I think we're going to be in this for a while, and we're going to go into a new normal. So I think that if you park that we're going back to the old way, and really think about how do you set yourself up to operate better in this ever-changing environment. And I think that there's so many different things which are facing us right now in the environment, right? I mean, it's no secret to anyone that the supply chain issues that we're seeing take a hold of nearly every sector since March 2020, which are repercussions of the global pandemic, that they're causing lots of challenges for businesses right across the size spectrum and the shipping backups and dealing with the inflation economy. We're seeing, the great resignation as people look that have reflected on their lives through this time, looking to have a change and new ways of working. And so I think it's really important that, businesses don't bury their heads in the sand as they think about what does next year look like. Address these issues, tackle them head on. Really take a hard look at your business and go, embrace these changes, embrace these trends, versus fight them or hope that there's going to be this return to going back to normal. And as I always say, these are going to affect businesses right up the size chain. They're going to change the way your customers want to work and the demands they have with you. They're going to make managing your cash flow super unpredictable. As we go through the high season, the holidays and beyond. So you've really got to be on top of your game. You've really got to be planning. It's tough, and I think make sure you're taking time to get a breath and take some downtime over the holidays where you can, because it is a pretty tough environment out there.
So heading into next year, you have to get in that mindset of thinking out of the box or planning for all different scenarios. How do you do that? Do you create different scenarios based on where it could be or where it's been, or how do you actually do all that? It seems like a big challenge.
Yeah, it is. And I think, there's still things to learn from the past. And, if you look at the last year and a half, we've gone into restrictions, we've come out of restrictions, we've seen certain industries boom and slow down. We've seen, a lot of volatility. And so businesses do have some experience already in how they've fared through that volatility, good, bad, and ugly. And so, I think as you look at your numbers and, you're coming into tax season, which means we're all getting our books ready for a tax return. So use that process of getting your numbers in to actually really look backwards and reflect on how did the business perform from both a financial point of view and how you looked after your customers. That will really help you think about, okay, what are the learnings and how do we start to look forward? What are the business metrics we're going to follow? What are we going to benchmark against previous years, so that you get that insight into how the business has performed and that really clear plan on what you want to track going into next year. And then the third thing is, when you think about planning in this ever-changing environment, I mean, there's a lot of tough stuff. There's a lot of exciting stuff with what's happening, as well as we, come out of the pandemic slowly and the ups and downs of coming out of it. And so, you are going to have to think about planning out different scenarios and making sure you're ready for each, being clear on what you can control. So again, don't think you have to do it on your own. There are trusted advisors out there, like we always say, whether it be your accountant or your bookkeeper, that can help you build that action plan after you've gone through and looked at your finances. And they also work with lots of different businesses. So, you're obviously reflecting on what you've done historically, but they can also bring in insights and guidance on, hey, the businesses we look after that are in the same space as you, this is how they're performing. This is the good stuff we're seeing them do. So, just be a sponge and take in as much advice and help as you can, particularly from experts that look after businesses in the same space as you.
Do you plan mainly for doom and gloom in 2022, or should you have an eye towards growth? And if growth is in the cards, how do you project it, given who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's tough. I think that comes down to the individual business and to what industry that the business is in. So there are businesses right now that are experiencing, booming growth, opportunity beyond what they ever expected. And there are businesses right now that are really struggling. They're struggling for talent. The service or product they provided might have been impacted by some of the trend changes that we've seen that have come out of the pandemic. And so really, again, start with, where am I and what is the industry that I'm in? How is it performing? What are people saying are the opportunities? If there's challenges, how do we manage those? So I think firstly, if you're in the boom side of the equation, how do you capitalize on that growth? And growth requires funding, which equals cash flow. And so, for a lot of businesses coming out of that survive mode, having gone through the pandemic in these booming segments, they've got to quickly get into that confident mode of, okay, can we switch from survival to thriving and chasing this growth, which is a big shift change. And so for them, it's going, well, what are the ways we're going to grow? How are we going to grow in this environment? How do we grow and not have the wheels fall off? And so making sure you plan out those scenarios. Have you got the right funding in place to ensure you've got the cash flow to fuel that growth? Do you have the right people? How do you make sure you retain your great people if you're going to go after that growth and attract new great talent to fund that growth? So lots of different things to think about if you are going to be growing. Have you got the right technology? I mean, a lot of the, e-commerce is booming. People are now selling their physical goods online to, geographies beyond where they just used to serve. So do you have the right technology stack, and all the tools that you're using that's working together to help you, when you grow, things change, things scale fast, and you need to make sure you're on technology that's going to scale with your business and that's going to help you stay right on the pulse. Because as you're pouring more and more money in and chasing growth, you got to be knowing, where I'm pouring money in, am I seeing the green shoots that I expected? Am I seeing the ROI I expected? Am I seeing the margin improvement I expected? Like, yes, we can go chase a whole lot of revenue, but it mightn't be profitable revenue. So you've got to be right on top of all those insights. And again, that's where having great advisors around you, move from that do-it-yourself mentality to do it together, and have a partner, whether it be a trusted advisor or an accountant or bookkeeper, that's going to be there to help you work out what those things you're going to track are and help you get those insights. So that's on the growth side. If you're in the tougher side, it's again about buckling down. There's two sort of approaches I look at if you're looking at a tougher year next year. And I think one is, do you see a pathway out? If you as you learn about the industry you're in or the product or service you're providing, is it a short-term bump that you've got to survive, or is this going to be a long-term trend? And if it's a long-term trend, how do you evolve the business or the product or service to sort of make sure you come out on the disruption side? And I think mapping out those different scenarios so that you can get out of it again is critical. But I think businesses have to look at, you've got to talk to your customers, you've got to look at the trends that are happening. And again, you're seeing a lot of people that are trying to hang on to this. We're going to go back to the old normal, so I just have to wait. And that's not what we're seeing. There's consumer trends have changed. The way your people want to work have changed. People want to work in a hybrid environment. And so you've got to find ways to embrace that if you're going to come out. The other key thing to think about is it's not hard to enter a new business. We're seeing a huge amount of new business formations. And even only 10 years ago, when technology was already around, there were still lots of barriers to enter a market. It was very hard to enter a new market against well-entrenched competitors. But now with technology, it sort of equalizes that. And so you do have to be ready for, there are disruptors entering almost any industry, any market space, and they're coming in without the same sort of capital expenditure barriers to get in the game and start competing. So you almost potentially have to think about, how do you disrupt yourself so that you can become the disruptor, not the disrupted.
Excellent. So you talked a lot about technology, and small businesses rely on a lot of automation and technology to run their operations. So what's in the cards for accounting software in 2022? How is that evolving to help small business owners forecast and plan in uncertain times.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think accounting software becomes more important than ever. We know that small businesses have often, there's still an enormous amount of small businesses, a scary amount, they're still using spreadsheet to do their accounting, that are also still stuck in desktop, which is, desktop was great, many decades ago, but it's stuck on a computer. It's not connected into all the other processes you have, and it's not enabling other people to come in and work with you on it. So, a couple of things: park the spreadsheet, move off desktop. The time to be working on online software now is more than ever. And secondly, if you're a new business that's starting out, we know that US businesses tend to wait about 12 months until they go into accounting software. And if you're chasing growth and need to have your finger on the pulse, you want to be on the right technology from day one. So we've been thinking about how do you remove, I think all the software vendors are making it really easy to get on software from day one, and making those sort of early packages available to get on at a really cost effective place, so you can get it on the right software from day one, connected with good advice to get going. And I think you're also going to see the sort of ecosystem, all the different technologies that you use in business, whether it be how you get paid, how you integrate and work with e-commerce platforms, how you work with your how you get payments engines, inventory management, all those things, they're all coming closer together more than ever. So all of your technology tools are becoming closer, more integrated, which streamlines and saves a whole lot of data entry, which means everything's flowing around. A lot of that process is happening now automatically. So you're able to spend more time actually on how is the business performing. And it's more important than ever, because you look at everyone who's working in your business, whether it be the people using it, your bookkeepers, your people that are running the invoicing, a lot of them don't want to work from a physical office anymore. So it's important that you're leveraging this modern technology so that everyone can be working from where they want to be working, in the same single source of truth data, where it's all connected up as a connected end-to-end ecosystem. That'll help you take advantage of the e-commerce trend, and also help you take advantage of meeting your customers where they are. Like, we just saw a massive move away. Checks, it felt like checks were never going to go away, but I think with the pandemic, people wanted contactless payment. People wanted, ways to pay more easily. And so all of those things are almost table stakes now for small businesses to have. And the innovation coming in accounting software and the wider ecosystem for small business as a platform, it's just getting faster and faster and faster. And the businesses that are capitalizing and then using those tools are just able to disrupt and go faster and have much higher survival rates than the ones that aren't. So, take the jump, get on in there. It's always hard to make changes, but now it's more than ever important that you make that change and get on the right platform. And there's lots of experts out there that want to help you. And it's something, at Xero, we are very, very sort of pride and passionate about small businesses having a platform which they can trust, but which is also hugely insightful and connects them to advisors.
So finally, in next year, what's keeping you awake at night, or in the accounting world? What are you worried about, or what should small business owners be worried about? Your top 3 for 2022.
We spoke about supply chain, inflation, and talent. Those aren't going away. With inflation, there was lots of debate around it sort of coming and going. It's going to be here for a while as the system settles down and as people get back out there and spend their cash. So you're going to have to really think about how do you manage in a high inflation environment, in looking at pricing. And with that, so inflation keeps me up. I think the war for talent and this, how people want to work, where they want to work, and for small businesses, retaining your top talent is really important. Make sure you're checking in with your people. It's really worrying if you lose a lot of your top players, you lose a lot of IP, and it's a very competitive market to get new talent in. So you really need to be checking in with your people and thinking about how you're setting your business up to operate in the way that sort of capitalizes on the trends that we're seeing that, the labor force wants to have post-pandemic. I'm worried about businesses that, there's a lot of businesses that have come out of, so that's sort of one, people and inflation. I don't know why I put people and inflation together, but 2, I think, is a lot of businesses just survived through the pandemic and haven't had the chance to really go through the steps of digital transformation. And so I see, big risk for those businesses coming into next year when it comes to their finance, their operations, and how they fare. And so, like now is the time to sort the desktop and spreadsheet issue, so that you're set up to be resilient in the next phase. And there's just an enormous amount of businesses that still haven't taken that jump. And then the last thing too, and I've sort of said it a few times, is it's lonely being a small business owner. You're not in a big corporate with lots of experts around you in different departments and consultants. You wear all the hats. And I think a lot of small business, I feel for them, I feel a lot of small business owners can be putting themselves at risk if they continue to go about managing things on their own, trying to make financial decisions in a silo on their own. And so again, we just hugely encourage people to move from that do-it-yourself mentality to do it together. Find the experts in your industry, whether they be accountants or bookkeepers that specialize in the line of work that you do. Get them to help you get on the right apps and tools to run your business so that you can really be resilient and hopefully disrupt and take advantage of the huge opportunities that are going to come.
Great. Well, there you had it. There's a lot to be optimistic about in 2022. So I want to thank you as always for taking out the time. This was great.
Awesome. No problem. Thank you. And good luck, everyone.